2013 was a year of development and change here at Pigeon Point Heritage Park. We invested in staff training. We started 3 very important capital projects. The main one has been our staff and lifeguard facility, a multi-purpose facility. The entrance upgrade. We are part of the top 100 best beaches in the world. Being in the list of the top 100 is no easy achievement.
Welcome to another episode of the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing. This week, members of the various carnival fraternities came to report on the 2014 carnival season. They are the President of Pan Trinbago Tobago Region, Marie Toby, President of Tuco Tobago Region, Ainsley King, Public Relations Officer for the Mass Transformation Committee, Aloy Johnson, and Chairman of the Windward Carnival Committee, Julian Celestine. After this, the Secretary for Community Development and Culture, Dr. Denise Soefat Angus, and Chairman of the Tobago Carnival Committee, Winston Gordon, addressed the media.
I am very pleased to report on Bago Carnival 2014, which could be considered a success based on the achievement of the goals and objectives of the special interest groups, which is Pan, Mass, and Calypso. You've heard them, you've heard the results, and you've heard their comments, you've heard their issues and their challenges. The Pan fraternity, under the leadership of Ms. Marie Toby, conducted their preliminaries. 10 bands went forward to the semis, 5 went forward to the finals, and the results was fairly good. I want to say congratulations to Marie and the Pan fraternity, to which I'm a lifelong member. Calypso went well also, Mr. Ainsley King, his leadership. 5 went forward to semis. Unfortunately, none made it to the finals. And under the secretary here, we extended ourselves beyond Tuco. There were unattached groups, and we spent a lot of money trying to support them. There were other tents, and we gave them the support. We brought Divas Calypso tent here, who came more or less at their own expense. They wanted to share with Tobago. They referred to it as a gift to Tobago. That night was shared with Tuco International, and you heard a report from Mr. King with some foreign-based Calypsonians. That too was good. Turning to Mass, there's not much I could add apart from what you heard from Mr. Aloy Johnson. There were lots of challenges and lots of issues. I refer to Carnival, based on my own experience, as a moving target. You think you have it right now, and by the end of the event, you realize how many things could go wrong. And you set it right this year, and you plan for next year, and you go again. I've seen, I don't want to go too deep, but I've seen Pan Finals Panorama, which has been going since 1963. And today, they're still in the learning curve, things they do and doesn't work out well, and they want to do things better, and it's all in the interest of improvement. Let me talk a little bit about the Carnival Village. There was a reason for it. It was an idea that worked. I think it worked well. It could be improved. It could go better. It was designed to represent, as the name implies, a center of attraction for carnival activities and a place where everything would happen. It was also meant to be a cost savings, so you don't get into the activities of construction and demolition and moving around events for Pan and another event for Calypso and stuff like that. And it's pretty expensive and different to manage, right? Moving stages, you would have heard of some of that, and the infrastructural problems we've had moving a stage from one area to another. We could never have enough stages. You need platforms for the judges, you need for the people who parade and stuff like that. There is thought that we may have to look at relocating the carnival village. But yes, there should be a carnival village for the center of activities. I've seen it in Port of Spain, in the Savannah, and lots of things are happening there. Whether you like mass or not, it's a place to go. It's a place to see things. And Tobago should be no different. So we are looking again. Lots of things we think about, we talked about. There are going to be meetings. You mentioned meetings coming up over the next week or 2 or 3. We're going to have one next week. Lots of things for us to look at. For the PAN, the MAS, Calypso, what went right, what went wrong, what could be improved, what need enhancement, and just to make it better, right? Junior Carnival, you've heard of that in previous years and continues to be so. The children make a significant contribution to the development of Carnival, and that won't change. In some of the events, the attendance were good, others not so good. People came out late. I went to one event where I want to refer to the Divas performance tent there. At 5:30, the show was ready to go. There was no audience. Some people think that it was because of the advertising. I'm not too sure about that, right? Because it was fairly well advertised. But then again, some people choose their shows. And we can't pin down reasons why people come late or not to go to a show. But different things. And we're going to look at stuff like that more closely. We had the interdependent, and Calypso, the interdepartment, how could I say it wrong? And the personality and the Calypso show. That too was fun, laughter. It created improvement in inter-employee relationships. There was bonding, the people, the friendly competition, that went well. Let me talk a little bit about the economic activity from where I see it. In the usual manner, Tobago was buzzing with income-generating activities, the air bridge, the port, auto rentals, general transportation, the hotels, the guest houses, bed and breakfast, the allied sectors, the restaurant, the street vendors, the suppliers of goods and services were among some of those who benefited. And there was participation from visitors, both foreign and domestic. When I say domestic, I mean Trinidad, and all who expressed their satisfaction and intention to return. I've heard people admitted, I am coming back to Tobago. This is the first time, and I never thought it would be like this. Crown Point. Let me talk about Crown Point. I adopted Crown Point as almost my own baby, right? And I was there from about 4:30 on Monday morning, and the place was bumping with the DJ and people. There were countless foreigners. By foreigners, you know, you could tell the difference. And they were there participating, drinking their beers, dancing with the locals, dancing among themselves. There were those who watched. The secretary here has thoughts of developing Crown Point as a tourism product, and it's working. I was there. There were about 10 bands. There were three steel bands. We had Concordian steel bands. That's the resident band in Canaan Bonaccord. We had Carib Dixieland coming out of Mount Pleasant. We had Cats and Jammers out of Black Rock, and they are 2 finalists in the Panorama competition. I think Crown Point has great potential for further development as a tourism resort. All in all, like I said, I think Carnival went well. It's my first time seeing Carnival in this broad light. I've been confined to the Pan fraternity over the years. Now I see it from a different perspective, and I really feel that there are lots of room for improvement. You've heard it from the guys here as to who's responsible, who's culpable, where you're going to lay blame. That's another story, but there's lots of room for improvement. Tobago Carnival cannot be compared with Trinidad Carnival. It's a horse of a different color, but it's a great place to be at Carnival time. And we have more than Carnival lovers. We have people coming out of Trinidad for rest, relaxation. We have the religious bodies coming up to camp, and just to be in Tobago. And I think Carnival, more than the fun-loving people, was good for all those who came across the waters.
I think first of all, I would like to congratulate all those who have been involved in making Carnival 2014 the success that it has been this year. I think that you've heard from the various stakeholders, MAS, Calypso, and PAN, and from the Windward, that overall we've had an increased number of persons participating throughout the whole season in the different art forms. And that has to be commendable. I think it says a lot that persons are willing to get involved in the Carnival experience, and not just as spectators, but also as active participants. And that is important in ensuring that the tradition is handed onward. I also commend the fact that, we heard that there are a lot more junior persons participating in the activities, and that too is very important for us. Not just about participating in Tobago, but we had many more persons qualifying on the national scene for semi-finals and the finals in both Calypso and in PAN. And though we did not bring home the first prize as we would have done in previous years, where PAN is concerned, I think we can all feel very proud that Tobago still influenced from number 1 to number 4, where in the first and third place we had a Tobago-born arranger, Devon Stewart, and I say congratulations to him and his PAN who would have won. But also in the second and fourth place we would have had the Buccaneers and also Cats and Jammers. And so we have to take pride in that. We also congratulate Carib Dixieland and Steel Explosion that they would have actually made it to the finals. But I also want to congratulate all the winners across the board. And I won't go through every single one, but we certainly had winners in the MAS, winners in the PAN, winners in Calypsos, winners in the Mud Mass Queen competition, which was a new initiative coming out of the Mud Mass group this year. And basically winners in the East, winners in the West, winners in the Crown Point Juve, the Windward Juve, and even at the Scarborough Juve. And so all over, I want to say congratulations to all of you and to say thank you for participating and making the activity what it was. This year started out with its challenges in the season, given the budgetary cuts that everyone has been receiving across the board. It wasn't just the Tobago Carnival Committee that would have gotten their cuts, but also in Trinidad we note that significant cuts occurred. And if we look at places like Arima and Chaguanas, where their budgets to put on their carnival in their area was, I think, 600,000 or 650,000, you would recognize that, we have done pretty well in Tobago. We put out about 9.5 million investment into Tobago's carnival. And I especially want to say, commend and say thanks to all of the stakeholders, because many of them would also have felt the pressures of the stringent budget that we had to deal with. But I really want to commend them for the professionalism and the way that they have gone about dealing with it. It has not always been a bed of roses. They've had their arguments. We've all had the arguments, but we were able to sit down and work it through and understand better what we're all dealing with, what we are willing to protect, and therefore we were able to see ourselves through it. And therefore I really want to say special thanks to them again and commend them for the way they would have dealt with the whole season. But I especially want to thank the Tobago Carnival Committee, because this was a new committee put in place. Even though they came with some of their experiences, they were never together as a committee and managing the whole carnival experience. And I want to pay special thanks to Mr. Gordon, Mr. Taylor, Miss Colette Charles, and many of the others who sat on the committee. that they were able to still hold it together. Yes, they were learning from the experiences, but I think they did a fantastic job so far, being able to work through with the stakeholders and being, again, getting us to the end where we can now sit and look back and, sort of be relaxed in a moment. But I do hope that within the next week, I am asking them that they begin to hold meetings to start getting the feedback and the debriefing about what would have occurred, where things didn't go as well, and therefore what can be done better. I always say we should never be afraid of failure, and I must commend Mr. Johnson for expressing the fact that, he admitted that they fell down in certain areas, and it's only when you do that that you can begin to pick yourselves up and look at where you're going next. Failure is the impetus for development. If we did not fail in some areas, then there would be no need to look at the product a little bit differently. And so I really hope that they will be having their meetings next week to begin starting that debriefing session. The one thing that has been good is that a decision was made from early, before they started, that they will be on board for a year up until the next carnival, because we have to begin looking at our carnival product differently, that it is not just about the events, but it is development of a product. And therefore it would be, challenging for the committee to stop their work now and start back later on in the year. And I'm saying that the committee will continue through the next year to begin preparations, because once you begin analyzing the information, you recognize that there are different activities that you must put in place. Training programs, awareness programs, sensitization programs, promotion and marketing, and that has to be in place if in 2015 we really want to have a product that we can certainly be very much proud of, everyone on the same page. The committee, when they were put in place, basically had a tall mandate, and I think one of the things that they've been able to achieve is to become attractive to community participation. We had a lot of community mass band leaders getting on board, some new ones getting on board. Some of those who would have fell off in the past decided to come back on board. And so that was quite exciting to see the community come together that way. They were also asked to focus on strengthening the exposure of the various art forms, the pan and the mass and the calypso. And I think we were able to see that with the number of tents and different activities that they were able to hold in the Carnival City and even outside of the Carnival City. That it become inclusive and reflective of Tobago's uniqueness, and I think, I heard you ask the question about whether mass is part of, whether mud mass is part of the mass. And yes, it is part of the mass, and I don't think that we can turn our backs on the fact that we have a growing number every year. I think last year it was about 10. I'm now hearing this year is about anywhere upwards to 15,000 persons. And I don't think we can turn our backs on that. But we have to find a way to help the mud mass organizers to do themselves, to create something that is a bit more manageable. But we cannot, we can't hide from it. And so hopefully that is something that they will continue to work on. And that another pillar was that it broadens the base for the economic opportunities of our people. And I have to say, we saw a lot more vendors on the road coming out. The Carnival City offered that experience for our vendors to come out in an area, a centralized area, where they can earn more in their areas. I think one of the challenges that I saw where we were lacking is actually having craft persons on the streets alongside food vendors Because, you know, if we have visitors to the island, if we have visitors who are part of our spectator groups, you know, sometimes they want to buy craft as souvenir. And I think that is an area where we need to see the craft people come out and take up that opportunity. And let me say how impressed I was with the level of creativity and the quality of the masks that we had this year. I think Tobagonians ought to be proud at what we saw being portrayed. And the fact that, again, bringing that Tobago uniqueness, because the mass band leaders did not just come out and revel with mass, they actually came out with a performance. Some of them did our indigenous dances, some of them did Scottish dances, and persons may say, well, Scottish is not in our background, but being fought over 32 times, I'm sure if you look in there, there's some Scottish somewhere in there too. And they were able to put on performances, and they really ought to be applauded for the, you know, show that they put on. Again, the challenge with that is the fact that they came out so late, but we're going to work on that the next time. In addition, another preparation tool that we would have had is the accountability and transparency workshop that we would have had, sensitizing the Festival Commission, the Carnival Committee, the Heritage Committee, and the other stakeholders who would have attended to the new levels of accountability and transparency that we all have to adhere to when we're dealing with public funding. That would have been held by my administrator, Ms. Karen Otley, would have been instrumental in hosting that at Fairfield Complex. And so out of those activities, we felt that, you know, pretty much all preparation was in place for the carnival. I think on Monday and Tuesday, I think we need to recognize that Monday and Tuesday is not just about pretty mass or mass. That Monday and Tuesday really should be about mass, pan, calypso, and the spectators. And I think if we begin to look at that in that fashion, then I think all the persons at the table may recognize that, you know, if you're setting a route for mass, it may not be the route that is beneficial to all the other stakeholders. And therefore, the route for mass has to take into consideration not just the judges, not just the masqueraders, but also pan, calypso, and the spectators, and also the vehicular traffic. I think, you know, perhaps one of the things that we can look at, because there's a lot of downtime sometimes in between the bands. Maybe the committee and the stakeholders need to think about whether they need to find a way to fill that space, whether it is a few calypsonians, you know, or putting pan in there. But I'm sure these are things that they need to be looking at, because at the end of the day, it is not just about the revelers. We have spectators that we need to entertain, and they were certainly lining the streets, waiting and waiting. And therefore, if we know that, we need to find ways to entertain while we continue to speak to the mass fraternity to see if we can't get a more timely appearance from them and a flow that really meets the expectations of the spectators. The Roxborough area, when we speak to route, of course, the Roxborough area does come to the fore. And let me applaud the police and the Roxborough community for being able to come together to make a decision that was acceptable to all. And, you know, on making that decision, that they were able to come out of the Roxborough Juve without incidents, and that has to be commended. However, we have to go further, because as we saw, the numbers continue to build, and we cannot ignore that Roxborough Juve is really larger than what we think it is, and it will continue to grow. I'm sure next year it will be even bigger. And therefore, I have been given the reassurance by Councillor Gary Melville, who is the Secretary of Division of Infrastructure and Public Utilities, that the DIPU will be looking into developing that alternate route. I think they spoke about developing the bridge over at Station Road, and that they will be dealing with that over the course of next year, so that come 2015, there will be an alternate route in and out of Roxborough, so that the Carnival Juve can continue. We had a number of also one additional band this year we had out of the Division of Community Development and Culture in collaboration with the Division of Health and Social Services. We had the Wellness Band, Our Health, Our Heritage, Our Wealth. And you know, that is important to remind our community, our people, that you know, our health is important, that we can't do anything without our health. And especially during Carnival period, you know, our health needs to be paramount. And therefore, I want to say thanks to the band for coming out and showcasing. They were not part of the competition as in previous years. We worked out a collaboration such that they came out and showcased wellness during the Carnival activities. They have also given their commitment to making appearances throughout the year on our behalf. But it is all about protection and development of the art form, and therefore the division, you know, commits to collaborating with TUCO to ensure that we have some training programs for Calypsonians. I know that right as the season started, Mr. King and TUCO executives, they were talking about training, you know, their Calypsonians. But at that time, you know, it was a little bit too late, and we have to put things in place earlier for training the Calypsonians, young Calypsonians, in terms of writing calypsos and singing their calypsos, getting the training programs in place for wire bending, costume construction, all of the areas that need to that is critical towards developing the product for next year. It has been a good experience. Yes, there's certainly room for significant improvement, but I think as long as we have persons talking, as long as we have Tobagonians committed to participating in a product that they own, and I think they've certainly demonstrated that this year, then I know that next year we will continue to grow, we'll continue to be bigger, and certainly better. And that is certainly in keeping with our mandate that we say as she continues to grow more beautiful. And that is the mandate in the division, and we will continue to ensure that every single year, every single initiative that we do continues to grow and be better.
Thank you for staying with us for the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for the week ending March 8, 2014.
It's picture perfect with over 100 reasons to come. The intensely nurturing sensation of being so close to nature, the laid-back rhythm of the island, and of course the outstanding Tobago Jazz Experience 2014 brings to its main stage Keisha Cole, Grammy Award winners, Earth, Wind and Fire, Brandy, and the man himself, John Legend. Everything on one incredibly perfect island. The Tobago Jazz Experience 2014, April 19th to 27th. Much more than music.